In a world where weight weenies and arrowheads are becoming more prominent, people are always looking for new technology to put on their bike, and the drivetrain is not an exception of that. This is the Prestacycle Uni-Block Cassette, and it comes in anywhere from $200 to $250 a piece. Now, if you're starting a bike around $1,000 to $2,000 range, you're probably never spent more than $100 on a cassette. And seeing that this cassette is that expensive, you're like, why the heck would I want to buy it? First off, let's start with the prominent features of why you may want to buy this cassette. Firstly, this cassette is super light. It is a singular piece of CNC'd steel alloy, and it's beautiful, man. I picked it up, and comparing it relative to the stock cassette that came on this bike, the Shimano 105, it was way lighter and felt pretty high quality. One thing I really liked is that you could see the CNC lines in the back of the cassette where the ridges were, holding it all together and adding some structural rigidity. And I thought that was really cool, especially since I study a bit of engineering here and there and mess with material sciences as well. But one can never hate some good craftsmanship. You may also be asking, why Uniblock? What does Uniblock even mean? So a Uniblock cassette basically means it's one piece, uni as in one. If you ever took a cassette off, you realize there are multiple pieces. Usually the first couple of gears are by themselves, and then the back gears come off all at once. All these pieces seat onto one another, and you can kind of mess it up if you're putting it on for the first time. But that user error really isn't why this is a Uniblock. The reason why the Uniblock was created is mainly for torquing purposes and power transfer purposes. SRAM does this very well with their higher end cassette lines. They're way ahead of Shimano on this curve. And since Shimano was behind on this, I think Prestacycle came in and just took the market for them. Let's say you're in the smaller gear range, like the actual cog is one of the smallest. Let's say you're on the 11 tooth. On a standard Shimano 105 cassette, while you're torquing that 11 tooth, it's just moving on that part of the free hub. It's torquing on that singular moment of the free hub and not really causing a universal torque aspect throughout the whole free hub. On the higher end of wattage range, you could actually feel this on your power output. If we go ahead and fuse all the back cassette cogs together, it'll be that no matter what gear you're in, you're consistently applying uniform torque throughout the whole free hub body, which in turn gives you better power output. And I believe that's one of the main selling points in combination with how light this thing is. I would say this cassette weighs anywhere from 5/8 to 3/4 the weight of a typical Shimano 105 cassette, and it also feels really, really beautiful in my hand. Now, I didn't really get to ride it that much, but from what I did ride on it, it was smooth. I mean, the shifting was there, didn't seem to have that many of the fitment issues. But for some long-term riders, there were a few complaints. I posted a couple videos on my Instagram informing people about, oh, look at this cassette, look how cool it is, and would you spend $200 on it? And I got kind of half and half reviews on it. A lot of people said they loved the cassette, and a lot of people complained about minor details. It was mainly manufacturing errors that was complained about, which I believe Prestacycle would warranty, but let's dive into that a little bit. Some of the first complaints that I got throughout my comment section were that the teeth shear off, which kind of makes sense because this is a single CNC block of aluminum, and if there is some tolerance issues, it could make some of the teeth on the actual sprocket really, really weak. This is kind of new technology, especially for a Shimano drivetrain, and it's relatively young within that stage, so you will experience some defects here and there. Honestly, I'm going to give them a benefit of the doubt. Relatively, they're a pretty small company trying to tackle a really big problem. And speaking more on some tolerance errors, people complained about the shifting aspects of it. Now, I installed this cassette on a SRAM access-based system, and typically for wireless Bluetooth shifting, it's really hard for it to become out of whack or out of tune, and you could tune the individual gears very, very precise, so you're not gonna really have a problem with shifting errors. However, I do see that with cable drives. Cable drives typically have a one click and then done. It's really hard to mess with the fine adjustment and tune it for each and every individual gear. It's mainly just, you tune it roughly for all the gears. So that was another big complaint. People were just explaining that, oh, it doesn't shift well. It's very choppy with shifting, which also makes sense. There could be some CNC errors. There could be some measurement errors that are off that they will definitely fix with R&D, which if you're running a wireless based system, I really do not see how it would mess anything up. I've seen some bikes going on 2-3 years and the shifting system still does not need a tune-up, which is, it baffles me. These big companies like Shimano and SRAM do their wireless shifting pretty good. But yeah, that's really all the negatives you will see with these Prestacycle Uni-Block cassettes. This is a big thing that Shimano should really tackle. I don't see them much in this Uni-Block cassette phase. That's why a lot of people are going toward Prestacycle. But SRAM is definitely embracing this, especially with their XDR drivers. You can see this with the SRAM transmission as well as the Access Rival. These are Uni-Block cassettes directly made from the manufacturer, so they're really reliable and you won't really have that many fitment issues. But again, Prestacycle's going after something that's usually solved by these bigger companies, and for them to be a third party making something like this is pretty notable, so definitely got to give them credit there. Lastly, another big complaint, which was also very odd for me when I was installing it, is there is no tension teeth when you try to install the cassette. I'm fairly certain bike mechanics know what I'm talking about, but let me image it for you guys who are new here. Usually when you torque down your cassette, there are some teeth on the top cog as well as your tensioning bolt. When you start getting up to torque, it'll start going tick, and it's a pretty violent one. This is usually for tension purposes. These tensioning rivets helps to ensure that nothing moves and everything is torqued down properly. And the thing that surprised me is Prestacycle does not have these at all. Now, definitely over time, I do see this potentially shaking out and causing the cassette to come loose, but it also may be really hard to manually CNC this on a Uniblock cassette. So I guess one solution to this is messing with higher end torque spec ranges, but again, this might mess with the free hub body, so I guess we'll see what happens from there. Anywho, what do we think about the Prestacycle Uni-Block cassette? Let me know down below. Do you have a good or bad experience with it, and would you ever buy one if you don't have one? Thank you guys for watching to the end. Leave a comment down below and subscribe. I post YouTube shorts daily, and have a great rest of your day.